Hey everybody, hope you're well, and it's James here. Today I'm going to be discussing what is an STO, how is it different to an ICO, an IPO, what are the downfalls, what are the upsides, but also, do I think ICOs are dead? And I'm going to discuss that at the end of the video. Hey everybody, just before we start, I just want to make a quick disclaimer. None of today's video is financial advice. It's just my own research. Don't be go selling your dog, your nana. Hate for comments to say we sold nana and we lost it all. That won't be good. So yeah, don't sell nana. Anyway, so what is an STO? So an STO is literally a hybrid of an ICO and an IPO, and it takes two key properties from each. So in the first instance, from an ICO, it takes the properties of the issuance for a token, and on the IPO side, which is really sort of the really interesting piece, is where it is pretty much backed by different assets. So something like stocks, bonds, shares, property, gold, so many different things. So it's actually backed by something. And one of the key things behind it is that, why do you need blockchain then? Well, very much where an IPO, you'd have all the information and it'd be sent on a PDF, a letter, or something in that manner. With the STO, it's all stored on the blockchain. So how is an STO different from an ICO? Well, first of all, an ICO is classed as a utility token and not an investment, and it is used within a platform or an ecosystem as the token of transaction there. Probably the best example here is Binance Coin. There's plenty of examples where it hasn't worked, but probably Binance Coin is probably the best one out there. And really, we've seen a massive splurge of ICOs last year, became the new craze, and the real reason for that was that the legal requirements for launching an ICO are very more relaxed versus an STO. Hence, we've seen that massive growth last year of companies launching ICOs. So how is an STO different to an IPO? Well, the STO is logged on the blockchain. With an IPO, it's more traditional methods of a share certificate or something along those lines. And although both are sort of regulated offerings, with the IPO, it's used in sort of private companies that want to go public. And through that IPO process, they can raise funds and issue shares to their accredited investors. Now, with some of the STO tokens, you can have that value against lots of different underlying assets. I think it's a lot easier to do, it's a lot quicker to do, and therefore there are some cost benefits of using an STO rather than an IPO, because you've got banking fees, you've got so many middlemen, you've got the costs are horrendous. I think generally it's about 20 to 25% of the funds raised go on just fees and all sorts, where we know with something like an STO or an ICO, it's very much in the 1, 2, 3%, depending on what their marketing campaign is, etc. So there's massive cost savings to be had by using the STO process rather than the IPO process. So what do I see as the benefits of STOs? Well, the first one has to be the lower risk element, where STOs are backed by something, ICOs aren't backed by anything, and you really need the community to get behind it before that token has any form of value. The other one would have to be costs. Now, in the current process, there's brokers' fees, there's middlemen, there's lots and lots of expense. I think something like 20 to 25% of all funds raised go on fees and all different things, where something like an STO, you don't have that. It's done by smart contract. It takes that human element out in most cases. The other key thing is increased liquidity, and that's predominantly driven by the ability to trade 24/7. Which I think is more exciting than 9 to 5, because in that small window, you have to trade. When it's 24/7, I mean, I've been up at 2 o'clock in the morning and things have gone nuts, and you get to trade whenever you want at any time, and I really like that. I think that is probably how the world will operate as we go forward. We already see it with Asda. Asda's 24/7. Why not trading? It just, it makes sense. So an STO token can also be programmable, which is pretty cool. So, you can have it set up so it can't go to certain addresses or parameters in place. So there's a lot more control. So, even where it's traded, if you will. So the other really big thing, and I've saved this till the end, is fractional ownership. And I really believe that this is the reason why we had such an explosion in the ICO market. Now, a lot of people talk about other elements, but I think it was this fractional ownership, in my own opinion, where people were able to get a slice of the pie for the first time ever, potentially buying into the next Google or the next Facebook or whatever it was they thought they were buying, and be able to get in with a small amount of money and leave with a large amount of money. Now, this has always been reserved for the big boys with the deep pockets, with the IPOs, put in £1 million, take out £1 million later, or whatever it is. So we've never had that opportunity, and when that opportunity came along, there was so much FOMO and people got all excited and they jumped in. But that fractional ownership, I think, is really key to the whole project, because a lot of us, 99.9% of us, don't have the money to go and buy a Rembrandt or a massive £5 million property in Malibu or whatever, but we can own part of it through the blockchain, and that is the exciting bit, and that's what people want to do. And then they can get a diverse portfolio across some arts and different things, and I think that's really what captures the imagination of people, and why we had this massive FOMO in sort of the ICO market. But really, I think it's a huge benefit in terms of having that fractional ownership piece. So what are the key challenges with STOs? Well, the first one is, you get rid of all the middlemen and you save on the cost, but the actual admin of all the other regulation stuff that needs to be done, which doesn't go away, the burden really sits with the STO company itself. So there are, could be a little bit more costly in that sense. We've got KYC process, but that's very much established and most projects will do that. I've also seen an article by one of the guys at the SEC who views everything as an STO. Utility token doesn't really come into it. It's all investing. It's all an investment of some description, and therefore everything is an STO. So actually everything would get muddled anyway. And I suppose the third one, which is probably the most critical one, because I see a lot of people talking about STO is going to be the next big thing, get in now. You're not going to be able to. We are retail investors. You need to be an accredited investor to be able to invest in some of these big STOs that are regulated by the SEC. And therefore you either need $1 million in assets, or you need to be earning over $200,000 a year, or if you're married, it needs to be a combined total of $300,000 a year. Now that automatically reduces that population of what we thought was 100% down to 1% that can actually invest in these STO projects. So again, where ICOs opened it up to everybody, STOs are really narrowing it down. So if you're out there thinking, I'm going to get into the next big STO, you're not going to be able to, because you're not an accredited investor. And obviously depending on where you are around the world and laws and who's doing what and all the rest of it, there might be some lacks in the short term, but in the long term there'll be none. Again, I think a lot of what we're seeing now will become elitist again. It's really the big boys of noticing that the cryptocurrency blockchain space is actually really good. For the first time ever, retail investors, the U&Is, have got in first before all of these guys, and now they're taking it back through regulation. And before we know it, you're not going to be able to get into a lot of projects. So I also said at the beginning of the video that I would share my opinions on what I thought was happening to ICOs and if I thought they were dead or not. Well, I've watched a lot of YouTubers talking about it, discussing it. I've also been thinking about it myself, keeping an eye on the market as well. So, probably the last time I invested in the ICO was more than 10 months ago, or maybe even longer. Obviously, when the market started to decline was the time I stopped to investing. Atheon was the last one. Now, the sort of big thing for me is that I do agree with some of the things that are being said. So people aren't willing to pay to get into ICOs anymore, buy those tokens. We've seen this up, we've seen the massive down. People realize that it's not backed by anything and it's super, super risky. However, I don't think ICOs will go away just purely because the STOs will be for accredited investors, and 99% of the population just won't be able to get into those projects. Therefore, there leaves an open market. And I believe the open market will look something like this. A company will start and they will give away their tokens, and they'll do it through a referral scheme, or you sign up to their website and give them your details and you'll get 100 tokens or $100 worth of tokens, or whatever that amount is. And that will create the community. So where a lot of tokens were struggling to get 5,000 people wallets or whatever, through this process it'll be so much simpler because there's no risk. So why wouldn't you sign up and at least get involved or have a look at the project? And in the background, these guys will offer equity of their projects to bigger venture capital funds who will invest 5 million for 10%, 15%, whatever the negotiation is. And I think that's what we'll see going forward, and therefore it will open the market up. And again, I think it will evolve again from there, but I think for the next year or 18 months, if ICOs survive, that's the guys that they will take. They won't be going after huge amounts of money. They'll be sort of trying to create community with the free tokens, and in the other hand, selling their equity to large investors, because they can now say, we've got 10,000 or 20,000 people that hold in the tokens. We've got community. We've got something to work with here. So that's my sort of thoughts on it. I'd love to hear what your opinion is on if you think ICOs are dead or not, or if you agree with the format that I've talked about today. But just looking at the market, doing a lot of getting back into it again, took a little bit of a break, if you will. That's where I would see it going. As always, guys, I really appreciate you tuning into the channel, and I will see you on my next video.